The dust cloud on the horizon grew smaller with each passing moment, and Lily Morrison's heart sank deeper into her chest as she watched the only community she had known for 6 months abandon her on the vast Texas plains. September 1867 had brought an early chill to the morning air, and she stood alone beside the single trunk that contained everything she owned in this world, her hand pressed against her stomach where no child would ever grow. The wagon master's words still echoed in her mind, spoken just an hour before with the cold pragmatism of a man who valued survival above compassion. "We cannot afford dead weight on this train, Mrs. Morrison. A barren woman with no husband and no skills that justify the supplies you consume is a luxury we cannot maintain. You will remain here at this supply station until another train passes through, or you make other arrangements." She had pleaded, offering to take on any work, to eat less, to prove her worth in whatever way they demanded. But the decision had been made days ago, she realized now. The whispers among the other women, the way families had begun to exclude her from their circles once word spread that her husband had died without leaving her pregnant, that she had confessed to the midwife her inability to conceive during 3 years of marriage. In this harsh land, where every pair of hands that could eventually work the fields held value, a barren woman approaching 24 was seen as little more than a burden. The supply station behind her consisted of a single ramshackle building that served as both trading post and way station for travelers heading west. The proprietor, a grizzled man named Chester who smelled of whiskey and tobacco, had agreed to let her stay for 3 days while she figured out her next move. After that, he had made clear with a leer that made her skin crawl, she would need to either pay for her keep with the few coins she had left, or earn her stay in ways she refused to contemplate. Lily picked up her trunk, her arms straining under its weight, and carried it inside the dim interior of the trading post. The building was constructed of rough-hewn timber and chinked with mud, with gaps that let in streams of morning light and would certainly let in the cold when winter arrived. Shelves lined the walls, sparsely stocked with goods for travelers: flour, beans, coffee, ammunition, rope, and various tools in states of disrepair. A counter stood at the far end, behind which Chester lounged in a chair, watching her with eyes that held no kindness. "You can sleep in the back room," he said, gesturing with a bottle toward a door covered by a threadbare curtain. "But remember what I said. 3 days, then we renegotiate terms." She nodded without speaking and dragged her trunk through the curtain into a small space that barely deserved the name of room. A pile of burlap sacks in the corner would serve as her bed, and a single small window, too high to see out of easily, provided the only ventilation. The smell of old grain and mouse droppings filled her nostrils, but she had slept in worse conditions on the wagon train during storms. Lily sat on her trunk and finally allowed the tears to come. Not the hysterical sobbing of despair, but the quiet, steady tears of a woman who had learned that the world was far crueler than she had imagined when she left Pennsylvania 3 years ago as a hopeful young bride. Her husband, Thomas, had been a good man if not an exciting one, a merchant's son who dreamed of establishing a mercantile in California where fortunes were still being made in the wake of the gold rush. He had died 6 months into their wagon train journey, kicked in the head by a panicked horse during a river crossing that had gone wrong. The wagon master had allowed her to continue with the train initially, assuming some family would take pity on her, that she might make herself useful enough to justify the resources she consumed. But as the weeks passed and her situation became clearer, the calculation shifted. Other families had lost members too, and they had children, had pregnant women, had the promise of future generations to build the new territories. She had nothing but her grief and her empty womb. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and stood, forcing herself to action rather than wallowing in self-pity. 3 days was not much time to devise a plan, but it was what she had. The nearest actual town was Fort Davis, some 20 miles south, a military outpost and growing community where she might find work as a laundress, a cook, or perhaps a teacher if they needed one. She had education, could read and write and cipher better than most, skills her father had insisted upon despite her mother's protests that too much learning made a woman unmarriageable. Her mother had been wrong about that, at least. Lily had married well enough. But perhaps she had been right that a woman needed more than books to survive in this world. She needed a womb that worked, apparently. The sound of hoofbeats outside brought her back to the present. She heard Chester moving in the front room, the scrape of his chair, the creak of the door opening. Voices, male voices, low and indistinct. Probably travelers stopping to resupply before continuing their journey, wherever that might lead. She stood and smoothed her dress, a simple brown calico that had once been her second best, but was now her only intact garment after months of hard travel. Her appearance mattered little out here, but old habits of propriety died hard. She pushed aside the curtain and stepped into the main room, thinking she might at least make herself useful. Show Chester she could work for her keep if nothing else. 3 men stood at the counter, and she immediately recognized the type. Cowboys, ranch hands, men who lived in the saddle and measured their worth by their skill with horses and cattle rather than by family or social standing. They were dusty from travel, their clothing worn but well-maintained, their gun belts sitting easy on their hips with the casual familiarity of men who knew how to use them, but did not need to prove it. The one doing the talking was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that curled at his collar and eyes the color of the sky on a clear winter day. Something about his face caught her attention, a quality she could not quite name. Not traditional handsomeness, though he was certainly pleasant to look at. Rather, it was an openness in his expression, a directness in his gaze when he glanced over and saw her that suggested he looked at the world honestly and expected it to look back the same way. "Madam," he said, touching the brim of his hat in acknowledgement before turning back to Chester. "We need supplies for about 3 more days of riding. Flour, beans, coffee, and whatever dried meat you have that is not completely leather." Chester named his prices, inflated as always for men who had no choice but to pay them, and the cowboy nodded without protest. As he counted out coins on the counter, one of his companions, a shorter man with red hair and a thick beard, wandered closer to where Lily stood. "You waiting on the train, miss?" he asked, not unkindly. "We passed one about 10 miles back, heading west." "That train left me behind," she said, the words coming out more bitter than she intended. "I am no longer welcome among their number." The red-haired man's eyes widened slightly, and she saw the question forming before he could stop it. "Why? What did you do?" But he had manners enough not to voice it aloud. The tall cowboy had heard, however. He turned from the counter, supplies forgotten for the moment, and studied her with those clear blue eyes. "A wagon train left a woman alone out here." His voice held disbelief and something else. Anger, perhaps, at the cruelty of it. "They had their reasons," Lily said, lifting her chin. She would not beg for pity from strangers. "No reason is good enough for that," he said flatly. He looked at Chester. "How long has she been here?" "Got here this morning," Chester said with a shrug. "She can stay 3 days, then we will work something out." The way Chester said it made the tall cowboy's jaw tighten. He glanced at his companions, some unspoken communication passing between them, then back at Lily. "Where were you headed?" "California," she said. "But I will make my way to Fort Davis now and find work there." "Fort Davis is a hard town for a woman alone." The third man spoke for the first time, older than the other two with gray threading his dark hair. "Military outpost means plenty of soldiers with money and not much sense. You might find work, but you will find trouble too." She knew he was right, but what choice did she have? "I will manage," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. The tall cowboy continued to study her, and she resisted the urge to squirm under his gaze. Finally, he seemed to come to some decision. "My name is Vincent Ellis," he said. "These are my partners, Robert and Samuel. We run a ranch about 30 miles southwest of here near the Olympia Creek. We have been up north buying breeding stock and are heading home now." She waited, unsure why he was telling her this. "We could use someone at the ranch," Vincent continued. "Someone to cook, manage the household, keep things running while we are out with the herds. The pay is fair, room and board included, and you would be safe there. We are not savages, despite what we might look like after a week on the trail." The offer stunned her into silence. She searched his face for the angle, for the hidden price she would be expected to pay, but saw only sincerity. "Why would you offer this to a stranger?" she asked carefully. "You know nothing about me." "I know a wagon train abandoned you in the middle of nowhere," Vincent said. "I know that takes a special kind of heartless, which tells me you probably did not deserve it. I know you are alone and need help, and I have it in my power to help. That seems like enough reason to me." "Could be she is a thief," Chester interjected. "Could be she murdered someone." "You do not know." Vincent turned to the proprietor with a look that could freeze water. "Did she?" Chester shrugged again. "How would I know? They just said she was not pulling her weight." "Because I am Barren," Lily said, the words sharp and clear in the room. She was tired of euphemisms, tired of shame over something she could not control. "I cannot bear children, and my husband is dead, so the wagon master deemed me useless. That is the full truth of it if you want to withdraw your offer now." She expected them to do exactly that. What ranch did not need children eventually, need a woman who could provide the next generation of workers and heirs? But Vincent's expression did not change. "Can you cook?" he asked. The question was so unexpected she almost laughed. "Yes." "Can you manage household accounts, supplies, that sort of thing?" "Yes." "Can you tolerate the company of 3 men who have forgotten most of their manners and occasionally track mud on clean floors?" This time she did laugh, a small sound but genuine. "I believe I can manage that." "Then I renew my offer," Vincent said. "Come work at the ranch. We leave in an hour, soon as we have our supplies packed." "I have not agreed yet," she pointed out, though her heart was already leaping at the prospect of safety, of purpose, of not having to navigate Fort Davis alone. "No, you have not," Vincent agreed. "But I hope you will. We are good men, Miss." "Mrs. Morrison," she corrected. "Lily Morrison. I am a widow." "Mrs. Morrison," he said with a slight nod. "We will treat you with respect and honor. You have my word on that, for what a stranger's word is worth." She studied him again, this man who had appeared like an answer to a prayer she had not even finished praying. He stood relaxed, patient, no pressure in his posture, giving her the choice, the agency that the wagon train had stripped away. "I accept your offer," she said, "and I thank you for it." "No thanks necessary," Vincent said. "We will all benefit from the arrangement." The hour passed quickly as Vincent and his partners finished their business with Chester, and Lily gathered her few possessions. She changed into her riding skirt, a practical garment she had made during the journey west, and packed everything else neatly into her trunk. When she emerged from the back room, she found Vincent waiting to help her, lifting the trunk as though it weighed nothing and carrying it outside to where 4 horses stood, 3 saddled mounts and 1 pack horse laden with supplies. "You can ride?" Vincent asked. "Well enough," Lily said, "though I am not expert at it." "You can ride with me then," he said, "until we get to the ranch and can find you a gentle horse of your own." He mounted his horse, a tall bay gelding with a white star on its forehead, then reached down to help her up. His hand was warm and calloused when she grasped it, his strength evident as he lifted her easily to sit behind him on the saddle. She had to put her arms around his waist to keep her balance, and she tried not to notice the solid feel of him, the warmth of his body through his shirt. "Hold tight," he said. "We have some ground to cover before nightfall." They rode south and west, leaving the supply station and its leering proprietor behind. The Texas landscape stretched before them, vast and unforgiving, beautiful in its harsh way. The vegetation here was different from Pennsylvania. More scrub brush and hardy grass, clusters of desert willow and mesquite trees, and the occasional oak in the draws where water collected. The sky arched overhead in endless blue, and the sun beat down with intensity that made her grateful for her bonnet. Vincent set an easy pace, mindful of the pack horse and of her inexperience with riding. His partners rode ahead, scouting the trail and keeping watch for any threats. This was still dangerous country, though the worst of the Indian wars had moved farther west. There were still occasional raids, still outlaws who preyed on travelers, still the simple dangers of the land itself. Snakes, flash floods, heat that could kill as surely as a bullet. But Lily felt safer than she had in months. Perhaps it was foolish to trust these men so quickly, but something in her gut told her Vincent Ellis was exactly what he appeared to be, a decent man who saw someone in need and chose to help. That such men existed in this harsh place gave her hope that she might build a life here after all, even if it was not the life she had imagined. "Tell me about the ranch," she said as they rode, her voice raised slightly to be heard over the thud of hoofbeats. "We call it the 3V Ranch," Vincent said. "For Vincent, Victor, and Virgil. Victor and Virgil are my brothers, twins actually. They are running things while the 3 of us here," he gestured to Robert and Samuel ahead, "went to buy the new breeding stock. We have about 500 head of cattle now, hoping to double that in the next few years. The land is good, water is reliable from the creek, and we have a decent house. Not fancy, but solid. How long have you been there?" 3 years. "We came out from Missouri after the war ended. All 3 of us served, saw things we would rather forget, and decided we wanted to build something instead of destroying things. The ranch is that for us. A future. Something that matters." She heard the weight in his voice when he mentioned the war. So many men carried those scars, visible and invisible. "It sounds like a good place," she said. "It is," he agreed. "Lonely sometimes, though. That is part of why I made the offer. The house needs a woman's touch, needs someone to make it feel like a home instead of just a place we sleep between work. If you can do that, you will be worth every penny we pay you, and then some." They rode in comfortable silence for a while, and Lily found herself relaxing against his back, exhaustion from the emotional turmoil of the morning catching up with her. She did not quite doze, but she let her mind drift, watching the landscape change gradually as they traveled. It was late afternoon when they stopped to rest the horses and eat a cold meal of jerky and hardtack that Robert produced from his saddlebags. They sat in the shade of a cottonwood tree near a small creek, and Lily took the opportunity to stretch her legs and splash cool water on her face. "You are holding up well," Samuel observed as he sat nearby, his weathered face kind. "Not everyone can ride that long without complaint." "The wagon train taught me endurance," Lily said. "Though I confess I will be glad to sleep in a bed that does not move," he chuckled. "You and me both." I am getting too old for sleeping on the ground." "How old are you?" she asked, then colored slightly. "Forgive me, that was rude." "Not at all," Samuel said. "I am 46, ancient by cowboy standards. Most men my age have settled down, have families. But the war took my wife and children, fever while I was away fighting, and I have not had the heart to start over. So I work, I ride, and I try to be useful." "I am sorry for your loss," Lily said quietly. "Seems we all carry losses out here," Samuel said. "That is part of what makes the West what it is. A place for people who are starting over, who left something behind, whether by choice or not. You will fit right in." Vincent called that it was time to move on, and they mounted up again. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Vincent pointed ahead to where smoke rose from a chimney. "That is the ranch," he said, and she heard the pride in his voice. "Home." As they drew closer, Lily could make out details. The house was indeed solid, built of stone and timber, long and low with a covered porch stretching across the front. Outbuildings clustered nearby. A barn, a bunkhouse, a smokehouse, corrals holding horses and cattle. It was not grand, but it was substantial, the kind of place that spoke of hard work and careful planning. Two men emerged from the house as they rode up, and Lily saw immediately that they were Vincent's brothers. The same tall build, the same dark hair, though their faces had subtle differences. One was heavier through the shoulders, his face more square. The other was leaner, with sharper features and eyes that held wariness. "You are back early," the heavier one said, then stopped when he saw Lily. "And you brought company." Vincent dismounted and helped Lily down, his hands steady on her waist. "This is Mrs. Lily Morrison," he said. "She is going to be managing the household for us. Mrs. Morrison, these are my brothers, Victor and Virgil." "Madam," they said in unison, touching their hats. "I know this is sudden," Vincent said to his brothers, "but circumstances called for quick decisions. I will explain everything." Victor and Virgil exchanged glances, but whatever they saw in Vincent's face must have satisfied them. "Welcome to the 3V Ranch, Mrs. Morrison," Victor said. "We are glad to have you." That first evening at the ranch passed in a blur of introductions and explanations. The house had 4 bedrooms, and they gave her the one that was cleanest and most furnished, though it was still sparse by any standard. A bed with a real mattress, a washstand, a trunk for her clothes, and a window that looked out over the corrals and beyond to the endless Texas landscape. Dinner was a rowdy affair with 6 people crowded around a table built for functionality rather than elegance. The men were polite, mindful of their language and manners in her presence. But there was an easy camaraderie among them that spoke of deep bonds forged through shared hardship. They told stories of the trip north, of the wild mustangs they had seen, of the breeding stock they had purchased from a rancher in the Panhandle. Lily mostly listened, offering small comments when addressed directly but content to observe. She was learning the dynamics of this place, the personalities that would shape her new life. Vincent emerged as the natural leader, the one the others looked to for decisions. Victor was the jokester, quick with a laugh and a comment that kept spirits high. Virgil was more reserved, thoughtful, his eyes often distant as though his mind worked on problems the rest of them did not see. Robert and Samuel were the steady ones, reliable and unflappable. And she was the unknown element, the woman who had appeared in their lives with no warning and would now inhabit their space, change their routines. She felt the weight of that responsibility as she lay in bed that night, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ranch settling around her. Somewhere cattle lowed softly. A horse nickered. The wind whispered through the eaves, and beneath it all silence, vast and deep, so different from the constant noise of the wagon train. She thought of Vincent's words, "I choose you." He had not said them exactly like that, but the meaning was the same. When the wagon train had rejected her, had declared her worthless, he had chosen differently, had seen value where others saw only burden. That meant something, though she was not yet sure what. Sleep claimed her eventually, and for the first time in months, she did not dream of being abandoned. The next days established a new rhythm. Lily rose early before dawn and started breakfast for the men. She discovered that the kitchen was actually well equipped, with a good iron stove, plenty of pots and pans, and a decent supply of staples. What it lacked was organization and cleanliness, the inevitable result of 5 men who viewed cooking as a necessary chore rather than a skill to take pride in. She set about changing that, scrubbing every surface, organizing the pantry, making lists of supplies they needed. The men were amused by her fervor at first, but when she started producing meals that were not just edible but genuinely good, their amusement turned to appreciation. "I had forgotten food could taste like this," Virgil said one evening, helping himself to a 3rd serving of the beef stew she had made. "Ma used to cook like this before." He trailed off, and Vincent caught Lily's eye with a small shake of his head. Whatever the story there, it was not for tonight. Beyond cooking, Lily took on the management of the household. She did laundry, an endless task with 5 working men. She mended clothes, sewed buttons, darned socks. She kept the accounts, noting what they spent and what they earned from selling cattle. She made the house feel lived in rather than just occupied, adding small touches. Wildflowers in a jar on the table, curtains sewn from feed sacks for the windows, a sense of order that had been lacking. And slowly, as the weeks passed, she began to feel like she belonged there. The men treated her with unfailing respect, keeping their rough language and rougher habits in check when she was nearby. They valued her work, made sure to tell her so. They made her feel seen in a way the wagon train had not, her worth measured by what she contributed rather than by what her body could or could not do. Vincent, in particular, seemed to go out of his way to make her comfortable. He asked her opinion on household matters, included her in discussions about the ranch's future, made sure she had what she needed. There was nothing improper in his behavior, always proper distance maintained, but Lily found herself watching him more than was wise. He was different from Thomas, her late husband. Thomas had been predictable, safe, his life mapped out in comfortable certainty. Vincent was a man shaped by uncertainty, by war and loss, and the daily challenges of building a life from nothing in an unforgiving land. He worked from before sunrise until after sunset, his hands never idle, his attention always on the next task, the next problem to solve. But he also had moments of stillness, times when he would stand on the porch in the evening and just look out over the land with something like peace on his face. She found him there one October evening about 6 weeks after her arrival. The air had turned crisp with the approach of winter, and the sunset was particularly beautiful, streaking the sky with purple and gold. "Mind if I join you?" she asked from the doorway. "Not at all," Vincent said, gesturing to the space beside him at the porch rail. They stood in silence for a while, watching the light fade. Finally, Vincent spoke. "Are you settling in well? Is there anything you need that we have not provided?" "You have been more than generous," Lily said. "I am content here." "Content is good," Vincent said, "but I want you to know you are more than just hired help. You are part of what makes this place work now. We all see that." His words warmed her in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. "Thank you," she said. "That means a great deal." "Can I ask you something?" Vincent turned to face her, his expression serious in the fading light. Back at the supply station, you said your condition with such certainty. Have you seen a doctor about it? Lily stiffened slightly. It was a personal question, but his tone held only curiosity, not judgment. I saw a doctor in Pennsylvania when my husband and I were first married and nothing happened. He examined me and said my womb was tilted wrong, that I likely would never carry a child to term. When I did conceive, twice I lost them both before 3 months had passed. The doctor said it would always be thus. I am sorry, Vincent said quietly. That must have been difficult. It was hardest on Thomas, Lily admitted. He had wanted a large family. I felt like I was failing him every day, even though he never said as much. You did not fail anyone, Vincent said firmly. These things happen and they are not in our control. Anyone who would judge you for it is not worth your concern. The wagon train would disagree. The wagon train was wrong. He said it with such conviction that she almost believed him. You have more worth than your ability to bear children, Lily. You have a mind, a spirit, skills, and talents. That is what matters. She blinked back sudden tears at his words, at the validation she had not realized she needed so desperately. You are a rare man, Vincent Ellis. I am just a man who knows what it is like to be judged for something beyond his control, he said. The war taught me that. Taught me to see people for who they really are, not what the world expects them to be. They stood together as darkness fell, and Lily felt something shift between them, some barrier lowering. It was not attraction, not yet, or perhaps it was, but she was not ready to name it. It was connection, recognition, the beginning of something that might become more if given time and care. Winter came to West Texas with cold winds and occasional snow that never lasted long. The work of the ranch continued, harder now as they had to break ice on water troughs and make sure the cattle had access to forage. Lily made sure the house was warm and welcoming, that there was always hot coffee and hearty meals waiting when the men came in from the cold. She also began to notice things about Vincent that she had not before. The way he always made sure his brothers ate before he did. How he would sit up late going over the account books, making sure every penny was accounted for, planning for the future. The gentleness in his hands when he worked with the horses, the patience he showed with everything and everyone. She noticed, too, how he looked at her sometimes when he thought she was not watching. Not with the lascivious intent of men like Chester at the supply station, but with something warmer, more complex. Respect, yes, but also curiosity and perhaps the beginning of affection. It frightened her a little, this awareness. She was a widow, still in some ways mourning the loss of the life she had expected to have. And Vincent was her employer, the man who had saved her from abandonment. Any relationship beyond the professional felt complicated, fraught with potential disaster. But her heart, it seemed, did not care about complications. The moment she knew for certain came in late November. Vincent had ridden out to check on a section of fence that had been damaged in a storm, and when he had not returned by nightfall, Lily found herself pacing the kitchen, worry gnawing at her stomach. He knows these lands, Victor said, trying to reassure her. He can handle himself. It is getting cold, Lily said, and there are wolves and his horse could have stumbled. We will give him another hour, Virgil said. Then we will go looking. That hour was the longest of Lily's life. She made coffee she did not drink, straightened things that did not need straightening, and tried not to imagine all the terrible things that could happen to a man alone in the dark. When she finally heard hoofbeats approaching, she ran to the door, propriety forgotten. Vincent dismounted in the yard, clearly exhausted but whole, and the relief that flooded through her was so intense it left her shaking. "You are all right," she said, and only then realized she had said it aloud. Vincent looked up, surprised to see her standing on the porch. Just took longer than expected, he said. Did not mean to worry anyone. Well, you did, Lily said, and there must have been something in her voice because Vincent's expression changed. Lily, he said softly, moving closer. I am fine. I know, she said. I know you are, I was worried. They stood looking at each other, and she saw the moment he understood what she was really saying, saw the hope that flashed across his face before he schooled it away. Come inside, she said. You must be frozen. I will heat up dinner. They did not speak of it that night, but something had been acknowledged between them, some truth laid bare. And in the days that followed, the dynamic shifted again. Vincent found more reasons to be near her, to talk with her. He asked her about her life before the wagon train, her childhood in Pennsylvania, her dreams for the future. She asked him about the war carefully, and he told her some of it, the parts he could bear to speak aloud. I saw so much death, he said one evening as they sat by the fire while his brothers played cards at the table. So much waste and cruelty. It made me wonder what the point of any of it was, why we are here if all we do is hurt each other. And did you find an answer? Lily asked, her knitting needles clicking softly as she worked on a scarf for him, though he did not know that yet. I think the answer is that we choose, Vincent said. We choose what kind of men we want to be, what kind of lives we want to build. The war was full of people following orders, doing terrible things because someone told them it was necessary. But out here, we can choose differently. Can choose to build instead of destroy, to help instead of hurt. Is that why you came back for me? Lily asked. A choice to help. Yes, Vincent said. But it was more than that too. It felt wrong to leave you there, felt like if I did not do something, I would be just as bad as the people who abandoned you. I could not live with that. I am glad you could not, Lily said softly. I am very glad. His eyes met hers, and the look there made her breath catch. Warmth, affection, and something deeper, something that had been growing in the quiet spaces between them. Lily, he began, then stopped as Victor called him over to settle a dispute in the card game. The moment passed, but it left Lily's heart racing. She knew now, without doubt, that what she felt for Vincent went far beyond gratitude. Somewhere in the daily routines of the ranch, in the shared meals and conversations, in the life they had built together, she had fallen in love with him. It terrified her. Thomas had loved her and married her despite her barrenness, but Thomas had married her before he knew, before it became real. Vincent knew the truth. But would he want a wife who could not give him children? Would he accept that limitation when it came time to think about his own future? Christmas came, spare but cheerful. They did not have much in the way of decorations, but Lily made a special meal and convinced the men to take the day off from work, to rest and enjoy each other's company. She had made small gifts for each of them. Socks she had knitted, a knife sheath tooled from leather scraps for Victor, a carved wooden button for Virgil's favorite shirt that he was always losing buttons from, new work gloves for Robert and Samuel. For Vincent, she had the scarf, dark blue wool that matched his eyes. When he opened it, his face went soft with an expression she could not quite read. You made this. It is not much, Lily said, suddenly shy. It is perfect, Vincent said. He wrapped it around his neck immediately despite the warmth of the house from the fire. Thank you. He gave her a gift too, a small package wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a book, a collection of poetry by Walt Whitman. I remembered you said you liked to read, Vincent said. Thought you might enjoy this. I had Samuel pick it up last time he went to Fort Davis. Lily clutched the book to her chest, overwhelmed. It had been months since she had something new to read, and that he had thought of it, had remembered her mention of it in passing, touched her deeply. Thank you, she whispered. This is wonderful. That night, after the others had gone to bed, Lily sat in the main room reading by lamplight. She heard footsteps and looked up to find Vincent standing in the doorway watching her. "Could not sleep?" she asked. "Did not want to yet," he said. "Do you mind if I sit with you?" "Not at all." He settled into the chair across from her, and they sat in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Vincent spoke. "Lily, I need to tell you something." Her heart began to pound. "All right." "When I saw you at that supply station, when I heard what had happened to you, I was angry," Vincent said. "Angry at the injustice of it, at the cruelty. I offered you a place here because it was the right thing to do, but somewhere along the way it became more than that." He paused, seeming to gather his words. "You have become essential to this place, to me. I look forward to coming in from work because I know you will be here. I think about you when I am out on the range. I have been trying not to say anything because you work for me, because the power is not equal and I do not want you to feel obligated in any way." "Vincent," Lily started, but he held up a hand. "Let me finish," he said. "If you do not feel the same way, that is fine. Nothing has to change. You have a place here for as long as you want it, and I will never mention this again. But if there is any chance that you might feel something similar, I need you to know that I am falling in love with you, Lily Morrison. Have been for a while now. And I would very much like to court you properly, if you would allow it." Her breath stopped in her chest. He was looking at her with such vulnerability, such hope and fear mingled together, and she knew this moment would change everything. "I need you to understand something first," she said carefully. "I cannot give you children, Vincent. I will never be able to give you a family. If you want those things, I am not the woman for you." "I do not want children," Vincent said firmly. "I want you. And before you say anything about me not knowing what I am giving up, I have thought about this. I know exactly what I am choosing. I am choosing a partner, a companion, someone who makes this hard life worth living. That is more important to me than anything else. Are you certain?" She had to ask, had to be absolutely sure. "I have never been more certain of anything," Vincent said. He stood and moved to kneel beside her chair, taking her hands in his. "Lily, I choose you. Not despite your circumstances, not overlooking them, but choosing you fully as you are. Will you let me court you?" Tears spilled down her cheeks, but they were tears of joy, of relief, of overwhelming emotion. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will." He smiled then, a brilliant expression that transformed his face and brought her hands to his lips to kiss them gently. "You have made me very happy. And you have made me feel valued in a way I never thought I would again," Lily said. "I am falling in love with you too, Vincent. Have been, I think, since that first day when you offered me hope when I had none." He stood and pulled her to her feet, and they stood close, his hands on her waist, hers on his shoulders. "I want to do this properly," he said. "Court you the right way, give you time to be sure." "I am already sure," Lily said, "but I appreciate the sentiment." He laughed softly and pulled her into an embrace. She rested her head against his chest and heard the strong, steady beat of his heart. Safe, she thought. This was what safety felt like. Not just physical safety, but emotional, the knowledge that she was accepted and cherished exactly as she was. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet house while the fire burned low and the stars wheeled overhead outside. When they finally parted and went to their separate rooms, Lily felt like a different person than the one who had been abandoned in the dust months before. That woman had been broken, lost. This woman was found, whole, loved. The courtship, such as it was in the context of a working ranch where privacy was limited, proceeded over the following months. Vincent was attentive without being overbearing, affectionate in appropriate ways given the presence of others. He brought her wildflowers when he found them on his rides. He sat with her in the evenings and read aloud from books while she sewed. He told her about his plans for the ranch, asked her opinion, valued her input. His brothers knew, of course. Victor teased them good-naturedly about being courting couple. Virgil was more reserved but gave his blessing when Vincent asked for it. Robert and Samuel were quietly pleased, having developed a grandfatherly affection for Lily. "You are good for him," Samuel told her one day while they worked together in the kitchen. He peeling potatoes while she rolled out dough for biscuits. "He has been alone too long, carried too much by himself. You share the load with him, make him smile more. That is valuable." "He is good for me too," Lily said. "He makes me feel like my life still has purpose, still has joy in it." "Then you are both lucky," Samuel said simply. Spring came, bringing new life to the ranch. Calves were born, colts dropped from the mares they had bred. The work intensified as they prepared for the spring roundup and the drive to market. Lily barely saw Vincent during those weeks except at meals, and even then he was usually exhausted, gulping down food before heading back out. But he always made time to kiss her goodnight, always touched her shoulder in passing, always made sure she knew she was on his mind even when work demanded his attention. It was late April when he asked her to marry him. They were standing by Limpia Creek, having walked down after dinner to enjoy the evening air. The cottonwoods were leafing out, and the water ran clear and cold from winter snowmelt in the distant mountains. "Lily," Vincent said, taking both her hands in his, "these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. I wake up grateful every morning that I rode back to that supply station, that I met you. You have turned this ranch into a home, and you have turned me into a better man. I know we have talked about the future in vague terms, but I want to make it official. Will you marry me?" He pulled a simple gold band from his pocket. "It was my grandmother's," he said. "The only thing of value I own that is not part of the ranch. I want you to have it." Lily looked at the ring, at his beloved face, at the life stretched out before them. A life without children, yes, but not without love, not without purpose. She thought of the woman she had been, discarded and deemed worthless. She thought of the woman she was now, valued and cherished. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you, Vincent. I will spend my life with you and count myself blessed to do so." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, as though it had been waiting for her all along. Then he cupped her face in his hands and kissed her, truly kissed her, for the first time. It was gentle and sweet and held the promise of all the kisses to come, all the days and nights they would share. When they returned to the house hand in hand, his brothers knew immediately what had happened. Victor whooped and clapped Vincent on the back. Virgil shook Vincent's hand with solemn pleasure and kissed Lily's cheek. Robert and Samuel broke out a bottle of whiskey they had been saving for a special occasion, and they toasted the happy couple late into the night. They were married 3 weeks later by a circuit preacher who came through the area. The ceremony was held at the ranch with only the household and a few neighbors in attendance. Lily wore a simple dress she had made herself, pale blue calico with lace at the collar and cuffs. Vincent wore his best trousers and a new shirt, his hair slicked back and his face clean-shaven. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, when Vincent kissed her in front of God and witnesses, Lily felt a profound sense of rightness. This was where she was meant to be, with this man in this place. All the pain of the journey that had brought her here felt worth it for this moment. The celebration was modest but joyful. They roasted a steer and invited neighboring ranchers. There was music, a fiddle player from a nearby homestead, and dancing in the yard as the sun set. Vincent held her close as they danced, and she could feel his heart beating against hers, steady and strong. "Happy," he murmured in her ear. "Deliriously," she said, and meant it. That night, in the room that was now theirs together, Vincent was gentle and patient, mindful of her nervousness. "We have all the time in the world," he said. "There is no rush." But Lily did not want to wait any longer. She had been alone for so long, had felt unwanted and broken. Now she wanted to be claimed, to be joined with this man who had chosen her when no one else would. Their lovemaking was tender and sweet, awkward in moments as all first times are, but filled with affection and growing passion. Afterward, as she lay in his arms, Lily felt a peace she had not known was possible. "I love you," she whispered in the darkness. "I love you too," Vincent said, his arms tightening around her. Now and always. The seasons turned and life on the 3V ranch continued. Lily settled into her role as wife and partner, managing the household and helping Vincent with the business side of the ranch. She discovered she had a talent for negotiation, getting better prices from the suppliers who came through and finding buyers for their cattle at premium rates. Under their combined management, the ranch prospered. They added more land, built a bigger barn, increased their herd. After 2 years, they were able to hire additional ranch hands, taking some of the burden off Vincent's brothers and allowing Robert and Samuel to take more time for rest. Vincent's brothers eventually found partners of their own. Victor married a widow from Fort Davis with 2 young children, and Lily loved helping with the little ones even as she felt the occasional pang of what she could not have. But Vincent was always there to remind her that they were building something valuable together, that their life had meaning and purpose beyond procreation. Virgil courted and married the daughter of a neighboring rancher, a practical woman who fit into ranch life as though born to it. With both brothers married, they built houses of their own on ranch land, expanding the operation into a true family enterprise. Lily and Vincent's house felt empty sometimes with just the 2 of them, but they filled it with other things. Lily started a garden, growing vegetables and flowers that brightened the landscape. Vincent built her a workshop where she could sew and do craft work, which she sold at the general store in Fort Davis, earning her own money and a sense of independence she cherished. They adopted strays in their way. A young cowboy named David who showed up looking for work and turned out to be fleeing an abusive father found a home with them. A Mexican family whose land had been stolen by corrupt officials was given a place on the ranch and a share of the profits from their labor. An elderly former slave who had nowhere else to go was welcomed into their household and given the dignity of real work for fair pay. Their home became known as a place where people in need could find help, where fairness and justice mattered more than profit. It was Vincent's nature, Lily knew, this compulsion to help. It was what had led him to rescue her, and it was what shaped every decision he made. "You have a good heart," she told him one evening 5 years into their marriage. They were sitting on their porch, watching the sunset, his arm around her shoulders. "I learned from you," Vincent said. "You were the first one I chose to help as a man who could make that choice. Everything after has been following your example." "My example," Lily laughed. "I am not sure what example I set." "Resilience," Vincent said. "Grace in the face of injustice, the ability to keep going when the world has been cruel. You taught me that strength is not just about physical power or stubborn determination. It is about getting up every time you are knocked down and choosing to believe that life can still be good." His words brought tears to her eyes. "You make me sound far more noble than I am." "I make you sound exactly as noble as you are," Vincent said, kissing her temple. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Lily Ellis. Every day I thank whatever Providence brought me to that supply station at exactly the right time." "I thank it too," Lily said, leaning into his warmth. "Every single day." Life was not perfect, of course. They faced challenges. Drought one year that decimated the herd and nearly bankrupted them. A harsh winter that killed livestock and damaged buildings. Rustlers who stole cattle and had to be tracked down by Vincent and his brothers. a dangerous endeavor that left Lily sick with worry until they returned safely. There were also the small griefs, the daily reminders of what they did not have. Victor's children growing up healthy and strong. Virgil's wife pregnant with their first child, then their second. The way people would sometimes look at Lily with pity when the conversation turned to family, as though her life was somehow less for not having children of her own. But Vincent never wavered. When someone at a community gathering made a thoughtless comment about their lack of children, he was quick to set them straight. "My wife and I have the family we want," he would say firmly, "and I will thank you not to suggest otherwise." His certainty helped Lily believe it too. Helped her see that their life was not less than others, just different. That the love they shared, the life they had built, the people they had helped, all of it mattered just as much as any child they might have had. On their 10th anniversary, Vincent surprised her with a trip to San Antonio. They took the train, a new luxury now that the railroads had expanded through Texas, and spent a week in the city like actual tourists. They stayed in a hotel with indoor plumbing and gas lamps. They ate in restaurants and attended the theater. They walked through the plaza and visited the Alamo, holding hands like young lovers. "This is wonderful," Lily said as they sat in a restaurant, dressed in their finest clothes, eating food they had not had to cook themselves. "You deserve wonderful things," Vincent said. "You deserve everything good this world has to offer. I know I cannot give you everything, but I can give you this." "You have given me everything that matters," Lily said, reaching across the table to take his hand. "A home, a purpose, love beyond measure. What more could I want?" "I can think of a few things," Vincent said with a smile. "Indoor plumbing at the ranch, for instance," Lily laughed. "That would be nice, I admit." "Then we will make it happen," Vincent said. "The ranch is doing well. We can afford some improvements, make life easier for you." "For us," Lily corrected. "Everything we build together." That night, in their hotel room, they made love with the slow, familiar passion of long-married partners who knew each other's bodies and hearts. Afterward, Lily lay in Vincent's arms and felt complete in a way she once thought impossible. "I love you," she said, the words she spoke every day but never grew tired of saying. "I love you too," Vincent replied, his voice drowsy with contentment. "My Lily, my choice, my everything." The years continued to pass, bringing changes and growth. The ranch expanded further, becoming one of the most successful operations in the region. Their reputation for fair dealing and ethical treatment of workers drew good people to them, and the 3V Ranch became a model for others. Vincent grew older gracefully, his dark hair turning silver at the temples, his face gaining lines that somehow made him even more handsome in Lily's eyes. He was 45 now, she 43, and they had been married 15 years. 15 years of shared mornings and nights, of working side by side, of facing challenges and celebrating triumphs together. They did eventually add indoor plumbing and a water heater that meant hot baths without hauling and heating water. They added a room to the house, a parlor where they could entertain visitors properly. They bought a piano, and Lily relearned the instrument she had played as a girl, filling the house with music. Life was good. Better than good. It was rich and full, textured with love and purpose. One evening in late summer, as they sat on their porch watching another stunning sunset, Vincent said, "Do you ever regret it?" "Regret what?" Lily asked. "Saying yes when I asked you to come to the ranch. Marrying me. This life we have built." Lily turned to look at him, studied his beloved face. "Not for a single moment," she said. "Do you?" "Never," Vincent said. "I just want to make sure you are happy, that this is enough." "This is more than enough," Lily said. "This is everything. You gave me back my life, Vincent. Gave me value and purpose when the world said I had none. You loved me when I felt unlovable. How could I ever regret that?" He pulled her close, and they sat together as the sun sank below the horizon and the first stars appeared. The land stretched out before them, their land, built with sweat and determination and love. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of the ranch, cattle, horses, the voices of the men in the bunkhouse settling in for the night. "This is my favorite time of day," Vincent said quietly. "When the work is done and I can sit with you like this, when it is just us and the land and the sky, this is when I feel most at peace." "Me too," Lily said. She thought back to that morning so long ago when the wagon train had left her behind, when she had stood alone in the dust feeling like her life was over. She could not have imagined then the life that awaited her, the love she would find, the home she would build. If she could go back and speak to that younger, more broken version of herself, she would tell her, "Hold on. Help is coming. A man named Vincent Ellis is going to ride back for you, and he is going to change everything. He is going to choose you, and in choosing you, he will teach you to choose yourself, to see your own worth, to build a life beyond your wildest dreams." But she could not go back, could only be grateful for the journey that had brought her here. "What are you thinking about?" Vincent asked. "About how lucky I am," Lily said. "About how grateful I am that you saw something in me worth saving." "I did not save you," Vincent said. "You saved yourself. I just gave you the opportunity, the space to do it. Everything else, all of this, you built with your own hands and your own strength." Maybe that was true. Maybe she had saved herself, found her own strength, chosen her own path. But she could not have done it without Vincent, without his faith in her, his steadfast love. "We saved each other," she said finally. "That is the truth of it. We each gave the other what they needed most." "That sounds right," Vincent agreed. They sat in comfortable silence as full darkness fell and the stars blazed overhead, countless points of light in the vast Texas sky. Somewhere in the house, a clock chimed the hour. Life continued its steady rhythm, predictable and precious. The years that followed brought more changes, as years always do. Victor's children grew up and started families of their own. Virgil had 3 daughters who treated Vincent and Lily like beloved aunt and uncle. The ranch continued to thrive, adapting to new markets and methods. Vincent and Lily grew older together, their bodies showing the wear of hard living but their spirits remaining strong. They faced losses. Robert passed away peacefully in his sleep at age 68, and they mourned him deeply. Samuel followed a few years later, having lived to the respectable age of 73. But there were joys too. Seeing the young people they had helped over the years succeed and build lives of their own, celebrating 20 years of marriage, then 25. Watching the land they had worked so hard to cultivate flourish and provide for so many. On their 30th anniversary, Vincent arranged another surprise. He had saved money secretly, and he took Lily on a trip to California, the destination she had been heading for when the wagon train left her behind. "I wanted you to see it," he said as they stood on the beach watching the Pacific Ocean roll endlessly against the shore. "Wanted you to complete the journey, even if it is 30 years later than planned." Lily watched the waves, felt the salt spray on her face and marveled at the beauty of it, but it did not call to her the way the Texas plains did. That was home now, deeply and permanently. "Thank you for bringing me here," she said, "but I am ready to go home now, our home." Vincent smiled, understanding as he always did. "Then we will go home." They returned to the ranch, to the life they had built, and settled back into comfortable routine. The work continued, though Vincent and Lily did less of the physical labor now, leaving that to younger hands. They focused instead on management, on planning, on enjoying the fruits of 3 decades of hard work. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Vincent was 60 when the doctor in Fort Davis told him his heart was failing. Not immediately dangerous, the doctor assured, but it meant taking things easier, less stress, more rest. He told Lily that evening, sitting in their familiar spots on the porch. She felt fear clutch at her heart, but she kept her voice steady. "Then we will adjust," she said. "Let Victor and Virgil take on more. We will take care of you." "I am not ready to stop yet," Vincent said. "There is still too much I want to do, too much time I want with you." "Then we will have it," Lily said firmly. "We will have as much time as God grants us, and we will make every moment count." They did exactly that. Vincent slowed down, took things easier, but he did not stop living. They took rides together through the ranch, short ones that did not tax his strength. They sat together in the evenings, reading or talking or simply being in each other's presence. They made love less frequently, but with no less passion, cherishing the intimacy they shared. On a spring evening 5 years later, Vincent collapsed in the barn while checking on a mare about to foal. Lily heard the commotion and ran, her heart in her throat, to find him conscious but weak, held up by Virgil and one of the ranch hands. They got him to bed, sent for the doctor, but they all knew. Vincent knew too. Lily could see it in his eyes when he looked at her. "Not yet," she whispered, clutching his hand. "Please, not yet. I need more time." "We have had 35 years, Vincent said, his voice thin but steady. 35 beautiful years, Lily. That is more than most people get, more than I ever dreamed of having." Tears streamed down her face. "It is not enough. It will never be enough." "I know," he said gently. He raised his hand to touch her face, wiped away her tears. "But it is what we have, and I am grateful for every moment of it. You made my life worth living, Lily. You gave me purpose and joy and love. I could not have asked for more." The doctor arrived and confirmed what they already knew. Vincent's heart was giving out. It could be hours, could be days, but the end was coming. Vincent refused to die in bed. With Lily's help and Virgil's support, he made his way to the porch, to his favorite chair, where he could see the land he loved. The family gathered, his brothers, their wives, their children. The ranch hands who had become family over the years. They stood vigil, keeping watch as the sun set and the stars came out. Lily sat beside Vincent, holding his hand, memorizing the feel of him while she still could. "I love you," she said. "I have loved you from the moment you said you choose me. I will love you until my last breath and beyond." "I love you too," Vincent said. "You were the best choice I ever made, the best thing in my life. Promise me something, anything." "Promise me you will keep living," Vincent said. "Keep making this ranch work, keep helping people, keep filling your days with purpose. Do not stop just because I am gone. You have too much to give." "I promise," Lily said, though the words tore at her heart. "I promise." He smiled, squeezed her hand with what strength he had left. "Good. That is good." They sat together as the night deepened, and Lily talked to him quietly, reminding him of their life together. The day they met, their wedding, all the moments big and small that had made up their shared existence. She did not know if he heard all of it, but she spoke anyway, filling the silence with love. Vincent Ellis died just before dawn, the sky lightening in the east, in the chair on the porch overlooking the land he had built, with Lily's hand in his and his family surrounding him. His passing was peaceful, a gentle slipping away rather than a fight. Lily felt the moment he left, felt the absence like a physical wound. She cried then, great wrenching sobs that came from the depths of her soul, and Virgil held her while she broke apart. They buried Vincent on a rise overlooking the ranch, a spot he had always loved for its view of the valley and the creek. The funeral was large, the community turning out to pay respects to a man who had been respected and loved by many. Person after person told Lily stories of Vincent's kindness, his fairness, his generosity. She was grateful for each story, each memory that kept him alive a little longer. The weeks after were the hardest of Lily's life, harder even than being abandoned by the wagon train. Then she had been lost but had hope for change. Now she was simply lost, adrift without the man who had been her anchor for 35 years. But she had promised Vincent she would keep living, and Lily Morrison Ellis kept her promises. She threw herself into the work of the ranch with renewed vigor, finding solace in action. Victor and Virgil were grateful for her involvement, for her steady hand and sharp mind. The ranch continued to prosper under their combined management. She also continued the work of helping others that she and Vincent had started. When a young family arrived in the area with nothing but determination and hope, she gave them a corner of ranch land to homestead and helped them get started. When a group of freed slaves came through looking for work, she hired them at fair wages and treated them with the dignity they deserved. She did it all in Vincent's memory, in his honor, but also because it was right. Because she had been helped when she needed it most, and she could do no less for others. Years passed, and Lily grew old with grace. Her hair turned white, her face lined with the marks of a life fully lived. She was 72 years old when she woke one morning and knew, with the same certainty Vincent must have had, that her time was coming to an end. She was not afraid. If anything, she felt relief. She missed Vincent with an ache that had never fully healed, and the thought of being with him again filled her with quiet joy. She spent that day putting her affairs in order, making sure Victor and Virgil knew her wishes for the ranch, for her few possessions. She wrote letters to people who had mattered to her, expressing her love and gratitude. As evening fell, she made her way to the porch, to the chair beside Vincent's empty one. The ranch spread out before her, thriving and beautiful, a testament to everything they had built together. She thought about the journey of her life, the long road from that dusty supply station to this moment. She had been broken then, lost and alone. But Vincent had ridden back for her, had said, "I choose you," and in doing so had given her everything. She had been loved, had loved in return, had built a life of meaning and purpose, had helped others find their way as she had found hers. What more could anyone ask from a life? The stars came out, brilliant and countless, and Lily felt a profound peace settle over her. She closed her eyes, Vincent's name on her lips, and let go. They found her the next morning, sitting peacefully in her chair on the porch, a slight smile on her face. They buried her beside Vincent on the rise, and the whole community mourned the passing of a woman who had touched so many lives, but her legacy lived on. The ranch continued for generations, growing and changing but always maintaining the values she and Vincent had established. Fairness, generosity, the belief that every person had worth regardless of circumstance. The families they had helped remembered and told their children, who told theirs, keeping the story alive. And on quiet evenings when the work was done and the stars came out over the Texas plains, people would sometimes stand on that rise where Vincent and Lily Ellis were buried and remember. Remember a man who chose to help when he could have ridden by. Remember a woman who turned abandonment into purpose, who built a life of meaning from the ashes of rejection. Remember a love that proved worth was not measured in children born, but in lives touched, in kindness shown, in the choice to see value where others saw none. The story of Vincent and Lily became part of the land itself, woven into the fabric of that place. And though they were gone, though generations passed and the world changed beyond recognition, the truth of their story remained. That one act of choosing, one moment of saying, "I see your worth," could change everything. Could save a life, build a future, create a legacy that would outlast them all. The 3V Ranch still stood generations later, the name maintained even as ownership passed through the family line. And on the rise overlooking the valley, two simple headstones marked the resting place of the couple who had started it all. Vincent Ellis, who had chosen to help, and Morrison Ellis, who had proven that a woman's worth was far more than any single definition of purpose could contain. Their love story was not one of grand gestures or dramatic moments, though it had started with one. It was the story of daily choices, of partnership and respect, of building a life together one day at a time. It was the story of two people who had found each other in the vast wilderness and had chosen to make something beautiful from the harsh materials at hand, and in the end, that was enough. More than enough, it was everything,